In this video, I would like to provide a brief but firm analysis of the current state of the American society. Over the past several days, weeks, months, and even years, the American populace at large has been forced to endure levels of pain and neglect and pretty much every other word with a negative connotation on a level that has been striking to not only witness, but be a part of as a fellow American. And this has taken many different forms. It started with a public health crisis. COVID swept in, and up until this point has claimed the lives of over 1 million Americans. We also saw our economic system, once again, as it has such a great tendency of doing so, spiral out of control, not only not being able to deal with the public health crisis, but inflicting on its population in inflation. Furthermore, we have most recently been forced to deal with a food shortage, something we were told didn't happen in capitalist societies. It only happened over there where we don't have to worry about it. Well, we're dealing with it here at home now. And it's also affecting the food that we feed our children with. And most recently, we have been having to deal with, although this has been a reoccurring problem, but it's right back at the center of attention. And what I am referring to is mass shootings. Yes, crazed, deranged violence inflicted upon the innocent. And so as I sit here and watch this go on, I feel like it's a great time to provide some sort of analysis or commentary so that we may at least understand the current moment that we're in. And in doing so, I believe it's firstly very important to address the problematic of the American psyche, the degeneration of the mental state of the American populace. In doing so, I want to talk about something very briefly that many people don't bring up. And it's the fact that the American populace at large is the most, if not one of the most, propagandized populations that exist today in our current world. And there's two things that is wrong with this. The first one being Americans, we are not even aware of, in many cases, the fact, or in other cases, the extent in which we are being propagandized. And the second one is that, well, even if you recognize it, you refuse to believe it. You refuse to acknowledge the accuracy of such a statement because our elected leaders in government and whoever else has been telling Americans for such a long time that propaganda, the lack of the truth, it isn't something that you have to deal with over here. We're always honest and we tell you everything that's happening. That's only things that happen in authoritative countries like China or North Korea or Russia or fill in the blank. But I'll just give you one example. In regards to gun rights or gun laws, right? Gun regulation. It's a topic that has once again shifted into the mainstream and taken everybody's attention because of the recent events. Americans have been so thoroughly fooled and propagandized that, and this is a sizable chunk of them, that they believe that the most basic gun regulation, the most basic laws to protect the lives of the innocent is somehow impeding on their freedom. And they didn't come to this conclusion on their own. No, they were told this by leading politicians and other people that stand to gain from telling them that. They have also arrived at the peculiar conclusion that in order to set up certain laws and regulations and what have you, it would have to be done by most likely the federal government. And they don't have the place nor the authority in order to do such a thing. It's extremely sad, but that is the current situation that we are in. But as a very astute individual has pointed out, and I would like to read this tweet to you. This is from Asel Rod. The problem isn't just gun control. It's the normalization of violence. When you're the largest global military spender, the number one arms dealer, have a militarized police that kill 3 Americans per day, and the largest prison population in the world, violence is woven into the society. And she's incredibly correct. And I would like to use that to bolster my argument here. You know, when I saw the news of not only this shooting in the city in Texas at the elementary school, but also the shooting, I believe it was in Buffalo at the grocery store, and many other different situations, you know, I've learned that not only me, but I'm sure many other Americans are desensitized to these types of events. And for the people in the media or whoever else that like to pretend that this is somehow some aberration, it's unforeseen, we couldn't have ever expected this to occur, I would have a rebuttal for them in the most sincere way that this is entirely expected. In a society that is currently on a downward spiral and has been so for some time, things like this are bound to happen, and they will continue to happen so long as the society remains the same. And so we have a country, an empire, that ever since its founding has been involved in such violence to such an expansive sense that it's woven into the society. The American government has been exterminating populations ever since its founding all throughout history, and it's continuing those same types of catastrophes today. We just got done waging a 20-year bombing campaign in Afghanistan. We're aiding Saudi Arabia in their genocide of the Yemeni people, and the list goes on in the different catastrophes that the U.S. government, through militarism and imperialism, is inflicting upon populations all around the world. And so when we look at that, and we look at the deterioration of the American psyche and the degeneration of such a thing, it becomes not a surprise that we see events like this unfold, no matter how sad and tragic they may be. And so in conclusion, what do we have? We have a public health system that has failed us, that is 100% for profit, that couldn't deal with the viral disease that has claimed the lives of over 1 million Americans. We have an economic system that, in its effort to hold on, has thrust us into another war that we are eagerly continuing through billions of dollars in weapons and aid and giving money to military contractors, etc. We have a law enforcement system, a justice system that can't even provide to our children and their teachers the safety of not being able to be massacred in their own classroom as they're trying to learn. We have a law enforcement that has showed us levels of cowardice that is striking in an effort to not do the job that they chose to do. They have budgets that go far beyond comprehension, that they don't even need. They've been militarized beyond belief, and they can't even save our children from being massacred by a crazed individual with unknown motives. We have a social system that is filled with so much divisiveness and hatred. We have a political system that is incredibly corrupt and only serves the rich and the few, while leaves the rest of us to suffer in its wake. This is a society that has failed, that is failing, and is continuing to fail. And the way that I see it is that the American populace right now is primed for an individual to swoop in with an argument that goes the following: I have a solution or solutions to fix the problems that we're currently undergoing, to bring us out of this peril that we despise. There are plenty of examples throughout history that show us just how dangerous a character can be, and one can only hope that we don't replicate here in this country the kind of events and situations that we have read about and heard about that occurred throughout history in the past that have been so incredibly damaging and devastating to a society.